In this video, I'm going to explain how to know when it's okay to share your personal life in your business, and specifically which parts of your personal life are the right ones to share with your audience. I know that you want to feel confident sharing pieces of your life in your content, newsletters, podcasts, or wherever else you might speak to your customers, so that you never have to second guess what you're sharing and why. And the best part is that you know that you're warming up your audience every single time you show up on camera so that it can lead to a sale. You'll know that every time you share a little piece of your life, you're warming them up a little bit more and a little bit more until they're boiling hot and ready to buy from you. This makes content feel easy. And when content feels easy, you stay consistent, which we all know is one of the biggest hurdles to creating content in your business. And it's so important for building an engaged and loyal audience that loves what you do and wants to buy from you. This is That Storytelling Podcast, and you're going to learn how to use storytelling in your business. So let's dive right in. Don't talk about yourself is such a common piece of advice in the business world that it might be looping in your brain without you even noticing it. And there's a really good reason for this. Most people talk about themselves way too much. And this advice reminds them to focus on their customers' needs rather than their own. But this advice does not apply everywhere. It is not universal, but there is an appropriate time and place to share your story with your audience. And not only is it appropriate, but it's essential. In 2025, you have to create content every single day, sometimes multiple times a day. In one day, you might create a reel, send out a newsletter, record a podcast, or even do a live presentation. I know that I can do all of those things in a single day when I'm really busy. And every single piece of content should, in an ideal scenario, connect, educate, and sell simultaneously. And stories are the best way to do all three at the same time. That's because humans learn most effectively through storytelling, and we're also designed to connect by telling stories to each other. And we're moved to take action or buy a product when we feel something, and stories are the best way to convey emotion. So you're missing out on this huge opportunity if you're not sharing stories inside of your business. And of course, there are all kinds of stories that you can share, including client testimonials or stories that you've read about or seen on TV, but the most powerful ones are going to come from your own lived experience. But sometimes this can feel really uncomfortable and confusing for entrepreneurs because it's hard to know which parts of your life to share in your business, right? So think about the last time that you shared a personal story or a piece of your life and it just didn't feel right. What felt off about it? Maybe you shared something about your family and then you felt awkward about it later and so you deleted it. Or maybe you created a talking head reel where you shared an anecdote about your day and then later you thought, did that even make sense? What was I even trying to say there? And so again, you deleted it and all of a sudden you don't know what to share or why you're sharing it or why you're even creating content in the first place. What is the point of saying anything at all? When confusion hits, procrastination is not far behind. You procrastinate because speaking to your audience feels hard, and our brains are designed to avoid doing hard things. Your body wants to conserve energy. Since the beginning of time, when we lived in caves, our bodies were designed to conserve energy so that we could hunt and run away from predators. And so when your brain is using up too much power, it sends a red flag to your body that says, this is unsafe. Stop what you're doing immediately. So your body will literally shut down if you think too hard. And this is one of the reasons why we procrastinate. Sometimes you can be on a roll and creating content feels so good, and then all of a sudden it just grinds to a halt and you feel like you forgot how to make content. Has this ever happened to you? It has definitely happened to me. But luckily, I have a storytelling framework, and I know that when content feels hard, it's because I am lacking clarity, specifically clarity on who I'm talking to and why they care. When I'm lacking clarity in these areas, I will start to question whether I should say something or keep it to myself or just stop posting content altogether. So to help you get through this, I'm going to share my speak or keep formula to help you decide whether you should share a specific part of your story with your audience so that you can stop second guessing yourself and share more freely. And this will allow you to make content more easily, which will eliminate those dips in consistency that you might be seeing in your content. Let's dive into step one, which is see your someone. This is all about seeing your ideal customer clearly. And I don't mean knowing the age of your ideal customer or where they live or how many roommates they have. I know that ideal customer work is so basic and overdone, but that is not what I'm talking about here. I mean really seeing people. Seth Godin has a book called This is Marketing. You can't be seen until you learn to see. And this is a phrase that most entrepreneurs need to tattoo on their arms. Your ideal customer will not see your message until you can see them clearly. And you might be thinking, I do see them. I know who I'm talking to. I am constantly surprised by the number of entrepreneurs that I meet who don't actually know their ideal customers the way they think they do. And that's because they haven't been taught ideal customer work in the correct way. So I want you to think of one person who you've had a real conversation with this month about your business. What words did they use to describe their problem? What parts of their problem seemed trivial to you, like you could solve them tomorrow if they would just do everything you said? And most importantly, what do you want to change about this person's life? And then what does this person think about that change? This might seem intense, but this is what I mean when I say that you need to see your someone, because you have a product or a service that can change someone's life. As I was writing the script for this episode, I paused to check my email, as one does, and I saw an email from a potential client. And I saw that my new community manager, Court, had responded to her before I even saw the email. I hired Court because I was having trouble keeping up with emails just like this one. I didn't want to outsource the warmth and the welcoming that I bring to my community to just anybody. I wanted to bring in somebody who cared about my community just as much as I did. And when I read this email, I saw that Court responded in such a beautiful and welcoming way. And it was 10 times better than I would ever do, because she has the time and energy to dedicate solely to this one task. And I noticed a change immediately. Instead of reading that email and feeling a little twinge of guilt because somebody needed something from me and she was expecting a response, I was able to go right back to this podcast script and keep working. And I realized that Court is changing my life. This is what I mean by changing someone's life. Responding to emails or DMs might seem trivial to you, but when you can really see your ideal customer and what they're struggling with, you can communicate a change in their life. And when you take the time to see your someone, it becomes possible to see the world through their eyes. And then you can start to create a filter that determines which parts of your life you're going to share and which parts you're going to keep to yourself. You will be able to know when to speak and when to keep. So ask yourself, who is this one specific person whose life I want to change? And really think about their problems, their desires, and their beliefs about that change. This is how you get clear on your ideal customer. It's not about filling out an exercise sheet in a workbook and then throwing it up on a shelf for the next 10 years. This is a thought process that needs to happen every single time you speak. Remember, you need to see others before they can see you, which leads me to step number 2, which is search for meaning. Whenever you want to speak or share a piece of your life, stop and ask yourself, why would this specific person care about what I have to say? And which part of this would they care about? And more specifically, what angle could I take that would be relevant to this specific person? Remember, you need to help your audience care about what you want to share. Because the truth is that your ideal customer does not care about every single part of your life. But it's also true that you could make any part of your life relevant to your ideal customer with enough creativity and effort. So if there are parts of your life that you do not want to share, I'm giving you permission today to take them off the table. You do not have to share them. You can choose the parts that are most relevant to your customer and leave out the rest. But if there is a part that you do want to share and it feels a little bit outside of your niche, you just need to put in a little bit more effort to figure out an angle that will work for your ideal customer. All you have to do is search for meaning. And what I mean by that is I want you to see your content through your ideal customer's eyes. I want you to imagine them looking at your content on their phone through their eyes and think about how they would receive it and what they would find interesting. A couple of weeks ago, I was at a mastermind having this exact conversation with an incredible fitness and nutrition coach. And she said to me, should I share this mastermind experience with my audience? And I said, sure, but let's find meaning for them first. I was sharing the entire mastermind experience from beginning to end because I knew that this was the kind of room that my ideal customer would want to be in one day. And so they would find the entire experience highly interesting. And it sells the payoff of storytelling because it shows the kind of business that you can build when you master this skill. But this would not be the case for somebody who's struggling with their health. This person would be much more interested in seeing what my friend eats on a daily basis and how she maintains her fitness routine while she's traveling for work. And as somebody who is constantly trying to master their nutrition, I personally would love to see how my friend customizes her snacks and her breakfast to stay on track during these events when it can be so hard to feel like you have control over your food. I also know that her ideal customer struggles with chronic pain, and so she could show herself carrying her heavy bags through the airport. And she could talk about how just a few years ago, she was unable to hold her newborn baby because she was in so much pain. And now she could show herself breezing through the airport with all of her luggage with zero pain. There are so many ways to make meaning out of the same event. We've all talked to a friend or family member about a shared experience and realized that they walked away with a completely different meaning from the exact same experience. That's because we're all looking at the world through our specific lens, and our brains process events in different ways. And it sounds harsh, but we're usually thinking about ourselves first. So I want you to see your life through your ideal customer's eyes. So before you speak, ask yourself, why would my ideal customer care about this? Is there a way that I could change the angle to make it more relevant to them? When you take the time to see your someone first and you search for meaning on their behalf, then you will always know when to speak and when to keep. And the more you do this, the easier it becomes. I promise that once you get into the habit of speaking this way, it does become second nature. It's like a filter that you can put over your life to see everything through the eyes of your ideal customer. You know, we're all familiar with filters on social media. You can swipe through them and see the same image in different ways. And this is exactly how I want you to see your life. When you want to speak, think about the filter that needs to go on it first. And you can even have more than one filter for your life. If you work with different types of clients, you can apply a different filter to each scenario and think about how it would relate to that specific customer. When you master this skill, you can share little snippets of your life to share with your audience that not only makes them like you and trust you more, but also sets them up to buy from you. And this is crucial because as a business owner, you are not sharing your life just to be entertaining. You're sharing your life so that you can sell a product or sell your services and change somebody's life. And this leads me to step number 3, which is sell the payoff. Once you have a specific person in your mind and you've searched for meaning on their behalf, I want you to think about, how does this sell the payoff of working with me or buying my product? I'm adding this part because it is absolutely possible to share a piece of your life that is relevant to your ideal customer, but is not related to your business or the product that you sell. There are so many parts of my life that are relevant to my ideal customer. For example, I am a mom to a 2-year-old, and my ideal customer is a millennial who could also very easily be a mom to a 2-year-old. I could very easily talk about parenting all day long, but I don't because it's not related to the payoff of storytelling. Of course, I can make anything related to the payoff of storytelling. For example, I could talk about how I get to spend more time with my daughter because I've created so much content that builds connection, educates, and sells at the same time. And so I have all of this margin in my life that I get to enjoy with my family. That's one angle that I could take, and sometimes I do, but it's not one of the stories that I tell frequently in my business. And my audience knows absolutely nothing about my child's life or my husband or anyone else in my family. Instead, I like to focus on the parts of my life that demonstrate the payoff that my ideal customer will receive when she masters storytelling in her business. So let's talk about what this word payoff actually means. Payoff has a few definitions, but in general, it means a reward for work or investment or some kind of effort that you've put into something. And I love this word payoff because it's also related to storytelling. In the world of entertainment, we often talk about the payoff of a story or even a joke. The payoff is the reward that the audience gets from listening to the story or hearing the setup for the joke. If the emotional payoff isn't there or the joke doesn't land and it's not funny, then the audience feels kind of let down. It's what makes the whole process of watching a movie or reading a book feel deeply satisfying because you're getting that emotional payoff at the end. So I want you to think of the emotional result that your audience will get from watching your content or reading your newsletter or listening to your podcast. What is the feeling that you want them to have when they come into your world? I can't tell you what those feelings are, but I can venture a guess, if you're selling a product, that you want them to feel a whole bunch of positive emotions, like inspired, hopeful, and capable of getting the result. These are the feelings that will lead them to act. People do not act when they're feeling depressed or stuck or uninspired. Positive emotions like inspiration lead to sales. So I'll use my business as an example. The payoff of storytelling is having the kind of business that brings in ideal customers consistently and regularly and feeling relaxed and authentic in the process. So the emotional payoff is feeling relaxed, abundant, and free. So whenever I share a piece of my life, I ask myself, is this relevant to the specific person that I'm thinking of? And does it paint a picture of being relaxed, abundant, and free? My entire brand is about being relaxed, abundant, and free. And it comes across in everything that I do, from the way that I speak on camera, to how I dress, to how I run my storytelling program. It's all about creating a feeling that my ideal customer wants to experience. And these feelings are the key to making sales through my content, whether that's a newsletter, a podcast, or a reel. This is not about creating a viral reel and making money overnight. This is the cumulative effect of telling your story over and over and over again. You have to tell your story consistently in order to see the results that you're hoping for in your business. When you do this, the feeling that you're trying to convey accumulates inside of your ideal customer and eventually leads them to act. And eventually, this turns your audience into customers. But as my sales coach always says, sales is not an event, it is a process. And the same is true for telling your story to your audience. Have you ever heard the saying, a watched pot never boils? That's because it takes so long for the water to get to the point where it's ready to boil, and then it boils in an instant. So usually you're standing over the pot waiting for it to get hot, and you're focusing on the visible change in the water, and your impatience makes the time feel slower. But if you step away and come back, then boom, the water is boiling every single time. It's like magic. Storytelling in your business is exactly like this. Nothing happens for a long time, and then all of a sudden it feels like your brand takes off overnight. And that's why all of these people claiming that they've made millions of dollars in a short amount of time is so dangerous, because it leaves out the whole process of the water getting warm and coming up to temperature and all of that work that they've put in to get it to the point of boiling. And that's why I'm so passionate about teaching storytelling to entrepreneurs, so that you have an actual process to follow to warm up your audience and get them to the point where they're ready to buy from you. So when you tell a consistent story to a very specific person and you sell the payoff of your product at the same time, then you can create a feeling inside of them that starts to boil and bubble up until they take action. But first, it's just about warming them up. As they spend more time with you and you continue to show up for them, they get warmer and warmer. And just like those molecules in the water, they want to move. And then they're ready to jump and take action and work with you. This is how you can comfortably and confidently share pieces of your life with your audience, knowing that you're warming them up to eventually make a sale. So every time you want to share a piece of your life, before you speak, ask yourself, who am I talking to? Does this have meaning for them? And is it related to the payoff that my product provides? Eventually, this will all come naturally to you, and you'll start sharing your life in a natural way that leads to sales. Then content starts to feel a little bit easier, because your life and your business are intertwined in this really beautiful way. Your life supports your business by warming up your customers, and your business supports your life by bringing in more revenue that you get to enjoy outside of your business. And that's what we all want, isn't it? An easy way to share our story with our ideal customers that also builds revenue in your business and improves your life overall. Because when you transform other people's lives, you get to transform your life in the process. Give this episode a thumbs up on YouTube or a 5-star review on Spotify if it helped you understand which parts of your life to include in your business. I know that this is a consistent pain point for my audience, and so I really want to make this as clear as possible for all of you. As always, leave a comment below and let me know which part of this episode stood out to you the most. And as always, don't hesitate to reach out to me on Instagram. I would love to keep the conversation going over there at ashley.renders. I'll be back next Friday with another episode. Have a great week. If you want even more tips to sell with storytelling, check out my latest video. It's all about how to sell with stories. You're going to get actionable steps that you can start using in your business today to start selling with storytelling. I'll see you over there.